Welcome back to Country Living. There were times in the past when I felt so alone, as if I had no one, and no one to listen to, no one to talk with, no shoulder to cry on. I just felt alone. And it doesn't matter where I was. I used to party, and this was after I had given my life to Christ. As a child, as I said in a previous post, I got baptized at the age of 10. But then I left the church. I walked away from God. And I felt so alone. And, it doesn't matter where I was, what I was doing, who I was with, how much money I had. It doesn't matter. I just felt alone. And it was a long time feeling that alone. So, my mom got sick. She got a stroke. And when she came out of the hospital to recuperate, there was a campaign that just began close to where we were living. And she said to me a few days after getting discharged from the hospital, she said, she called me, Tati, I want to go to the campaign. Can you take me? I love my mother. I love her. So I said, yes, I'll take you. And I didn't know, I didn't know what happened after that. I didn't know what happened. I had no intention of that happening to me. But I went, and I was there just with her, holding her hand, keeping her company, in case she needed anything. I never left her, but I wasn't really there. I never heard anything. I was hearing but not listening. So I took home nothing with me. I just wasn't interested. But I was there with her. Sometimes I would step out from under the tent, in the space, and just stand there for a while. And it was in that campaign, I think 3 weeks after, my third child got baptized. So, and I supported him. Of course, I grew up in the church, so I know there's a God. I just didn't want him at the time. But I supported my child. I supported my son. When the children when they wanted to get baptized, I did not say no. I supported them. Sometimes I maybe ask, why do you want to do this? But I supported them. I never told them no, never ever tell them no. And I just take this opportunity to say to parents, when your child wants to give their life to Christ, do not stop them, because there's going to come a time when you want them to give their life to Christ and they're going to say no. So don't stop them. However, I think a week after that, the pastor, I wish I could remember his name, but he after preaching every night, he makes an altar call. He invited persons to come and to commit their lives to Christ. This night, he made an altar call. He would ask the church to stand, and then he would invite those who want to give their lives to Christ to come up or, to come to pray. I never went up any time at all. But that night, he walked down to me. I saw him coming. I did not know he was coming to me. But he walked to me and he said these words that would change my life forever. He said, young lady, what are you waiting on to give your life to Christ? And I felt as if we both were alone under that tent. I didn't see anybody else. To me, there was no one else. It was just me and the pastor. And I never waited for him to say another word. I don't know if I would say I felt scared. I felt naked, in need. I felt needy. I felt like I need this. This is what I need. Someone to talk with. I know who he was inviting me to come to. And I just stepped out of the space I was standing in. And I walked with him to the altar. And that night, I gave my life to Christ. I already knew most of what they were going to tell me, because at the age of 10, I was taught a lot of things. There were a few things that I learned that was more emphasized when I gave my life to Christ that night afterwards. But most of the things that I needed to know, I was taught that at the age of 10. We had to study the Bible in a class for new members for 3 months. So most of what they were saying, or all of what they were saying to me before baptism, I already knew. But that night changed my life forever. I will never, by the grace of God, walk away from God again. I will never. I know the trials are many and the struggles are hard, but when we put our faith and trust in God, walking with Him is easy. If we walk alone, it's hard. But when we walk with Him, when we prayerfully study His words, remember, He said, cast your care upon me because I care for you. We should trust His words. Trust His words. Whatever He says, He means it. Brethren, friends, I am encouraging you. It is time. It is time to look away from the darkness and look to the light. With that said, catch you later.